We're just espresso depresso this week because I don't have anything uplifting to reel us back in from that. Everybody that watches anything to do with sports, whether you read an article every now and then, whether you turn on ESPN, whether you listen to sports radio, you know that Clayton Kershaw was pulled after 7 perfect innings with just 80 pitches the other night in a game that they were up 7-0 against the Minnesota Twins. And I am here to explain why Kershaw being pulled in the midst of his perfect game is a complete travesty to the sport of baseball and really everything that is wrong with the modern sport of baseball. And honestly, if we had time, I'd get into how this affects other sports, but I'm not going to do it. We're gonna keep this strictly to baseball just for you, AJ. 7-0, 7 innings, 0 runs. You can't do better than that. 21 at-bats, AJ. 13 strikeouts, 80 pitches, okay? 80 pitches. Do you know what the math on that is, AJ? We're a little over 11 pitches an inning. A little over 11 pitches an inning, 21 at-bats, 13 strikeouts. And you pull this player in the midst of trying to achieve one of the greatest things, one of the greatest singular achievements there is in sports, not just baseball. And I want to put this into light, how great this is. And listen, as a fan, you care more about your team than individual achievement. If you have to trade a perfect game for a World Series, you're going to do it. And players will give the lip service and say that they will do the same. But if I was a player, there's no way in hell I would. And I bet most of these players actually wouldn't, because there have only been 23 perfect games in the history of baseball. There's a World Series champ every year. We've played baseball for like 140 years. How long have we played baseball, AJ? It's been a long time. A long time we've played baseball. Only 23 perfect games ever. Really 24, okay? As a Tigers fan, I'm going to tell you it's really 24. But even if with that asterisk game, it's so incredibly rare. You know what Clayton Kershaw has? He's got a ring on this finger. He's got a ring. You know what he doesn't have? He's got no hitters. He's got all kinds of accolades. He's got an MVP. He's got Cy Youngs. He doesn't have a perfect game. It's the only thing missing off his resume. Clayton Kershaw gets a perfect game, and people are calling him the greatest pitcher to ever pitch if he gets this perfect game. And I know it's a team sport, and we don't care about personal accolades. That's fine. You may not care about personal accolades. It's not the fact that he didn't get that personal accolade that ruins this, because let's be real, he still had 6 batters to go. And no matter how great he looked, we know in Detroit how fleeting that can be, even if you do everything right. It can come down to that last batter, and you can do everything right and still not get a perfect game. Here's the issue. He was pulled because we have been sold a lie in the name of player safety about this mythos called pitch counts. And it's one that Clayton Kershaw himself believes, which is why he was not upset. He was not mad that he got pulled. He had talked to the staff before the game. They were targeting around 70, 85 pitches, somewhere around there for him to, he's working his way back from injury. We don't want to tax his arm too much. We don't want to stress him. We don't want anything that, listen, we're talking about Clayton Kershaw's future. All right? This 34-year-old brittle man, we don't want him to break down prematurely. We have to protect him like the soft baby that he is. But here's the problem. It's not rooted in reality. You see, the pitch count fallacy is not a matter of a difference of opinions. We can all have different opinions in the world of sports. You might have a different philosophy on how to build a football team than I do. You might have a different philosophy on how a basketball offense should be run, whether you're jacking threes constantly or whether you're driving it to the hoop and getting alley-oops, right? Those are difference of opinions. This is a difference in logical application. This is not an opinion. This is buffoonery in bro science. This is not real life. There is no actual evidence that supports lower pitch counts preventing injury. There is not even good correlation, which, listen, correlation-based research is essentially meaningless. It's what half the medical field is based on and why we can't agree on anything and everybody's obese and has heart disease. I mean, listen, for years we were told that correlation-based data, right? You can't eat fat. Fats are unhealthy for you. You got to eat all this low-fat food. Look what that did to America. That's because of correlation-based research. There's barely correlation to suggest that pitch counts help prevent injury But actual evidence, actual cause and effect, there's none. There is nothing to suggest the minimal pitch count. And listen, I'm not lying to you, I promise. You show me one study, I'll never do another show again. You show me an actual cause and effect of pitch counts and the strain that it puts on your tendons, on your shoulder, on your wrist, on your elbow, and actually leads to a higher risk of injury. It doesn't exist because it's a lie. And it is in the name of player safety that we do this, and it is hurting the sports. You see, where injury actually comes from in pitching is mechanical issues. And everybody's biomechanics are entirely different on their own. What is safe for one pitcher may not be safe for another pitcher. And then you add in how many pitchers throw with incorrect mechanics. When you do this research, if you're very interested in pitch counts, what you will find is that in young players and teenage players and high school players and little league players, there is a much higher correlation of pitch counts to injury. Do you know why? Because they have poor mechanics. When you have a kid who's 13 years old playing little league or low high school ball and his coach only cares about him getting the win, he doesn't care if his mechanics are a little off. He just wants him to throw a fastball as hard as he can. And when he goes through 300 pitches, 350 pitches over the course of a weekend tournament with poor mechanics, you know what's going to happen? He's going to get hurt. And we know this. James Andrews, famed surgeon, he does a lot of ACL surgeries. He goes around the country. He speaks at conventions. He was one of the leaders of the pitch count revolution. You know what he said is the number one issue with pitcher injury? He said it's mechanics. This is the guy pushing this stuff, even admitted that it all comes down to mechanics. Time and time again, listen, we don't have lower injury rates during this pitch count revolution. If pitch count mattered, why do relievers get hurt? Relievers hardly pitch. They don't go 100 pitches. They come in and throw 15 pitches. Relievers still get hurt. It doesn't stop relievers from getting Tommy John surgery or pulling a lat because it doesn't matter. What you have to look for is when timing is disrupted. Your timing changes, the rhythm of your pitching gets disrupted. If you get tired from pitching and your mechanics change, your arm slot starts to change, your shoulder shifts a little bit, you are pitching with poor mechanics because you are fatigued. You can't go 100 pitches because your body's not built for it. So you start to throw differently. It's kind of like if you're at the gym and you're doing a heavy set of squats and you get to rep 6 and you're struggling to get it up. So what do? You compromise your form, you compromise your mechanics. And that's when injuries happen. It didn't happen because you hit a magic number of reps. You see this magic number of pitches, it doesn't exist. It's not 80, it's not 100, it's not 140. What we have to watch is for the mechanics of the pitcher. And if you watch the game that Clayton Kershaw was pitching, he was painting corners. He didn't have an arm slot issue. He wasn't overly fatigued. He wasn't over or under rotating. He wasn't coming off the mound weird or more aggressive because he was tired and he was trying to compensate. Everything he was doing is clean. And that doesn't mean that he's pitching perfectly, but there was no mechanical breakdown because of fatigue, which means there was no increased risk of injury. Look at the pitch charts. He was painting the strike zone on the edges, wherever he wanted to put the ball. He didn't have a breakdown. He was pulled because of a myth that we've been sold that says we have to protect him. He's at 80 pitches. The inning's over. We don't want him to push 100 pitches. Why? Because it's some magic number. Someone might get hit on their 30th pitches. They might be fatigued. They might not have the conditioning for it. They might not be prepared for it. Someone might be able to go 140 pitches deep. We saw, I think just a year or two ago, someone went about 140 pitches to preserve a no-hitter. I don't have the name at the top of my memory. It's been proven over and over again. You can look at any data sample you want. It doesn't matter. This is pseudoscience. You have pitching coaches out there that understand this. Okay, there's a pitching coach in Colorado. I have his name written down here, but I have so much stuff written down here. I don't have it on my own right now. He trains kids. He sent dozens of kids to college baseball. He sent half a dozen kids to MLB in the draft. His pitches throw legitimately 4 and 5 times more what is recommended for youth right now. They have never had a single structure injury through throwing. Why? Because it's all about mechanics. It's not about pitch count. And he teaches proper mechanics at every step. And anytime that slips, they change it up. Pitch count is just this number that we assign and it feels good. We say, okay, 100 pitches is triple digits. It looks like a big number. Let's try to not get much past 100 pitches. If you're on injury, I mean, come on, man. It's ridiculous. And it is destroying the game over something that is complete pseudoscience instead of taking an evidence-based approach, teaching the right things mechanically, looking for physical reasons to pull pitchers. Because a pitcher might not have it in the second inning, no matter how many pitches he has. He might be laboring. He might be struggling. Pull that pitcher. Don't pull the guy that has been flawless. And this is horrible for baseball. We are going to get to a point where guys are going 3 innings and every game is going to be, you're going to have your opener that the Tampa Bay Rays have popularized, right? That's what we're moving towards. It's not good for players. It's not good for the game of baseball. And it's based on something that isn't real. This is horrible. I told you earlier, AJ, if I was at this game and I saw a pitcher pulled in the midst of a perfect game and this late, he's got 2 innings to go, I would never pay to go see another baseball game again. It is honestly vomit inducing, and it's because it lacks any sense. There's no logic behind it. It's just, oh, it's a big number. We're scared of it. He might get hurt. It's ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense.
Man on a mission, I'ma get it. You know I be on a way. Yeah.